Do not pre-architect everything, because I've never seen someone who draws the architecture and then codes the architecture like that and it works. I rarely have seen code from video games that are well structured. It's always a mess, but it works.
This is a conversation with Ricard Pillosu, co-founder and lead director at Epictellers. He has over 20 years experience in the industry, including lots of experience in AAA. For example, he was the development director at Crytek for Rise, Son of Rome. Now he founded his own studio, Epictellers, a 30-plus people remote team building a CRPG in Godot.
I found people that they want to show that they are very good programmers. So they overcomplicate the system, saying, yeah, but look at what I can do. You need to acknowledge that compared to the complexity of the code that you are doing, your brain is stupid. Cannot handle it. Your brain is very limited compared to all the complexity you want to handle. So what you are doing is that you transform the problem in something that your brain can handle. So you keep breaking it down into small pieces until one piece fits your brain.
They're the biggest Godot team out there that I know of. Then I'm mainly here to ask questions about coding and code architecture, coding philosophy for video games. I hope you enjoy. Let's dive right in. I think I stumbled over an interesting quote of yours while doing some research, and I think you said something along the lines of you're more afraid of big success than of small failure, or something along those lines.
It's a very odd thing, I know. Big success, it's extremely dangerous for your brain. Most of people that I see that has big success, with some exceptions, that success eats them. We all know the cliche of someone who got money very fast and then somehow went crazy, or I don't know, or famous actors, or people that are famous rock stars and people like that. And every time I meet people that have a lot of money, or it could be money, but this kind of success, depending, also it could be this kind of critical success, but really, really good. I don't see those people very happy, to be honest. All those people, after a few years, they stop producing very good stuff. Again, there are exceptions, but that's why I'm scared. Statistics and my experience tell me it's actually very toxic for your ego.
So this is maybe not the business side in you speaking, this is the artist side in you speaking, and like the artist side in you is like scared that it's difficult to stay grounded after a big hit, after like a very big hit or something. Yeah.
Oh, no. And this also for the business side.
For the business side also.
Yeah, for the business side. I mean, I think if we do enough money that we do not need to worry about money, as long as we keep our, feet on the ground and we are not looking for yacht or something like this. Yeah. As long as we just keep doing our normal life and keep going ahead, those things this is fine. But if you get a lot of money, I mean, it's extremely difficult to control yourself.
And then there are also, the more money there's on the table, the more interest groups are like interacting like weirdly with you, and that sort of stuff probably also plays a role.
That's very accurate. One of the main problems with this kind of success is that people treat you differently. Yeah. Like you have the owner of some sort of secret formula for success or something. And deep down, luck is 70% of it.
Okay, so you don't think there's a formula. You think it's a lot of luck?
The percentage of luck involved is always way bigger than what people think, because your brain keeps telling you that there must be something that I do that makes it happen. Yes, there are something you can do to increase your odds, but luck is a huge factor. The thing is that if we would accept that luck is that big factor, probably we would not start many endeavors. But remind yourself that you need to be lucky. There are people that have fantastic games and they just ship in the wrong moment, with the wrong publisher, with the wrong technology, in a moment where, I don't know, and something else happens, and they are not lucky. Or they are just son of someone. And this is extremely the case of lucky, right? You are born in a family that has a lot of resources and money, can give you a great education. That's really rolling dice. So that's why I think that it's something that I try to remind myself that it's about that. It's about, but you need to generate opportunities, but remind remind yourself that it's not everything up to you.
I think most developers would probably agree that there's a lot of luck at play, but I think where the opinions differ is maybe where the luck happens, right? For example, I think it's very hard to argue with the fact that there's a lot of luck in where you are born, like which family you're in, if you're like good financial starting position and so on. That is extremely luck based. But do you think that is the biggest factor, or are there more luck-based factors after that? Like you already said, like announcement, but like where do you see the most luck in this process, in the entire pipeline?
The people you work with, the situations in their life. You could be working with someone who, I don't know, is fantastic, but depression, going through a divorce, losing someone in their life, and suddenly that person is turned off by circumstances, and it's not that they choose that. And since and the bigger the team, the bigger the team or the more involved the team, that you are rolling more dice. I mean, I did a presentation a few weeks ago in a university. They asked me what is the most difficult factor to build a studio, and I told them people. I mean, you need to the right game, the right technology. But making games is not difficult. Working in team is difficult. Is in the scale of difficulties. That's it. That's how high it is. Making games, well, it's tedious. It's a lot of work, but it's just you solve physics, you solve collisions, you solve tools, and you keep going. But all those things have solutions. I mean, it's not difficult to make video games. It is difficult to coordinate with people in the same direction. That is tough.
I think if I'm correct, Epictellers is about a 30 people team around that number at the moment, right?
Yeah, Epictellers, not Epic Sellers. That would be a really bad name.
Epictellers would be even better though.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, right. We are 30, I think a bit more because we needed a bit more bandwidth and we got 2 more people, so I think it's 32, something like that. Yeah,
that's quite a huge team. So that comes with quite a burn rate as well, right? That's like quite some hefty bills to pay every month, I assume.
But it's a calculated thing. And it's not a huge team. Actually, for my previous work, it will be like one department. So maybe like the coding department could be like 30, and then you get to people like 100, 130, 150, 200. And I haven't been there, but I have friends working in a company or in a project of more than 1,000 people.
Maybe to quickly summarize your development journey, you were in AAA before, or could you quickly summarize that whole journey for us?
Quickly would be, I started in a small studio in Madrid, the ones that created the Commandos series in Pyro Studios as the first job. Then I went a bit more indie with a studio called Carvirago. It's sent that it didn't went anywhere, so I moved to I got accepted at Crytek, where I did the bulk of my development experience. I joined Crytek when they were finishing Crisis 1, and I was part of another team that was developing new IPs and new games in order to pitch it to publishers. I was there, moved from senior coder, lead programmer, project manager, and project director. And the last project was Rise Son of Rome when I was project director. And we started like 20, 30 people. It's considered micro. And then we end up like 130 or something like this by the end. Then I went back to Spain, teach at the university, game programming, engine programming, all those kind of things. And then I was hired by Smalgate to build a studio, Smalgate Barcelona, here in Barcelona, and handle the whole tech thing under using Unreal. But after a few years, Smalgate thought that, no, we don't want to do that anymore. But by that time, I already got the idea with Albert, my co-founder, to build the studio ourselves. So that when we started Epictellers, like 3 years ago, I don't know. I tend to forget things very fast. So, yeah.
So have you always been in more of a lead role, or when did you grow into this lead position?
That leadership position happened when I was in that team building new games at Crytek, and the lead programmer left. And then they asked me to fill that position. I was very hesitant, but a very good friend from HR, Heiko, he told me, I think you will be a good lead. And he somehow hand-holded me the whole process. And it went well. I mean, the team was happy with my kind of leadership, and then after that was successful. That's when they told me, okay, can you do the same thing you do with programming for the rest of the teams? And that's why I did production manager, and then after that, then production director and stuff like this. So yeah, I would say more than half of my career.
What exactly is your position now? Would you see yourself as more as like CEO, or would you see yourself as tech lead, or how would you describe your position now?
I mean, Epictellers is very unorthodox in how it is built and structured. So some stuff that I explain does not map to other studios. But I am kind of a project director. So I tend to oversee tempos, what we are aiming to do, how the player should feel, and trying to go through all the areas and make sure that we are all aligned. And when there is something on the tech that the coders, because some of them are very young and they don't have enough experience, even if they are super smart, way smarter than me in many areas, I just go there and build some systems so they can then jump in and then build really the system after that. But having a bit of the structural idea behind those systems, it has proved very, very beneficial. But normally my week is Monday to Friday is kind of direction. So I talk to all the people. I talk to do one-on-ones. I go through all the departments, and we look at all the problems, and I try to find a way that there is quick decision making for everybody, so there are no any important block in the middle, and we move forward. And then during the weekends, normally I get one day like Saturday or Sunday, and then it's like, okay, what are the things tech wise that we could solve quickly? And then I jump and I start either fixing bugs, creating base systems and things like this. And that has been pretty much since the beginning.
One thing I've been wondering about is like, how are AAA games developed from like a tech perspective? Let's say like the studio decides we're gonna make a new game. What is the starting point when you're in AAA? Is it like, okay, here are the systems we'll need, or do you already have like a bucket of reusable systems from the last project, or how does that look like? Or do you think it's very different from studio to studio?
It is very different from studio to studio. Very different. So,
okay.
For example, Creative believed a lot into building their own technology. So it was a very technology-oriented company where they built some technology and then they created games around it. And then when the game was evolving, then it was requesting technology. So it was like this kind of very strong relationship. In Smilegate, it was vice versa. It was built in the correct steps. It's like, okay, what is the game first? What are we trying to do here? And then what is the right tool to achieve that in the most efficient way? So in that case, we were using Unreal because of the game required very realistic graphics, and we wanted to have a bit of a jump start and being technology feel very new. So Unreal made sense. But for example, I have some friends in Ubisoft. I don't have that experience by myself, that they have so much code, so much systems built already for other games that sometimes as a coder, it's really building a puzzle of like, okay, I need to build an inventory. Well, we have like 10 different inventories in different code bases. Pick your battle here. Because there is so much history and so much technology built before. As studios evolve, they focus less on technology and more into how we make the next game interesting. So they are more game design dependent than technology dependent.
I see.
Again, engines more or less is kind of a solved thing. We do
So
we do few improvements here and there, but they are not too much difference.
So with a tech stack or with the technology, you sort of get into a groove, and then the main problem you try to solve at some point is just the design of the games, essentially.
Yeah, because it's rare that nowadays you do a game that will be interesting because of the technology. Rare to a point that I actually cannot recall any. Innovation comes more from hardware, like, I don't know, like the latest consoles are super fast hard drives. So this way we can maybe get from hard drive to VRAM very quickly, and that changes things. It means we have access to a bigger pool of textures. But that's kind of we are trying, for example, Sony is doing very interesting, trying to build new things in the kind of audio, making audio way more interesting, way more technical. Those are things that we evolve, but it's not that back in the days when I was playing Doom and Quake, every game was like, wow, it's like 10 important improvements. And I would just want to see this game. I don't care if it's fun. I just want to have it in my computer to witness fantastic things. But nowadays it's not the case. I mean, you are happy. I'm happy playing a pixel art game. It's more about that. Technology is out of the way nowadays.
Okay. To what degree is prototyping typically part of the process in AAA games? Because we indie devs, we talk about prototyping a lot, right? Is that also something that studios do in AAA, or is it more like, here's the design document, this is what we're making? How does that look like in your experience?
Again, every studio have different formulas. I can tell you what I talk with my peers about. For example, I have a friend in God of War. I have a friend in Ubisoft, other Ubisoft projects. I have friends in Guerrilla. I have friends in many different games. And every time we share stories, it is not much overlap. The culture of the company finds what worked with them in the past and stick with this kind of rituals. That's what they call the culture of the company. For example, at Crytek, we got one kind of ritual is that we were building something, and for example, I remember that at Rise, we couldn't figure out combat. We were a bit stuck. Combat, something felt good, but it was not good enough. And we don't know what to do it. So I can't recall the name of it. There was a name for that, but Cabal or something like this. I can't recall it. So everybody, basically, we took a bit like a Scrum, what a Scrum does. We took game designers, we took programmers, and we took an artist or something, and we put them in a room, and we said, that's your only job. You're not going to do anything else. And we put the name is like, those guys are solving combat. You do you, kind of, situation room or something. And at Crytek, it worked well because when you have big companies, there is so much noise and so many opinions. So a way of saying, guys, we trust you. You have game design, you have code, and every 2 weeks we will just up around. Is like, hey, you guys fine? But you have 3 months to fix it. So make a combat fun. And that was a thing that worked well. Well, combat at Rise wasn't that good, but at least we moved it from unplayable to boring, which is a progress.
Yeah, so the approach there is you create a little sub-team with a clear task or responsibility, and you have them let go at it in like a smaller team, basically.
Yeah, I mean, depending on it highly depends on how clear the vision is and how strong vision you have coming from the creative director. If you have a creative director that has their vision is strong and is very good at communicating that vision and has acceptable kind of flexibility around it, things becomes very easy. Basically, he explains what he's asking for, what he has in his mind, then we build teams around it. And normally we do prototypes. Normally in the pre-production phase, we do prototypes for, I don't know, movement, transversal, as normally we call it. Then we have combat, we have this kind of, I don't know, narrative bits, how we are going to deliver those things. We have those teams building those. He reviews those, we iterate them. And there is a step that it could be a publisher, it could be leadership from the studio, it could be editorial in some other place in the world, it could be something that says, okay, I want to see this and verify that we have something there that it's interesting. And once we have it, normally we have it like 60, 70%. but it feels good enough. And then we go into production. It's like, okay, now we are going to, those are the pieces that we are going to build the game around. And now we will build all the content, and we will keep saying, I don't know, we have like 4 things. We have combat, dialogue, and inventory management and this. And then we keep playing with them, distributing through the game. But I have to say, it's way more messy than what I explained.
So when you start working on a new project, it almost sounds like you have like different people or different mini teams maybe working on different things, right? Maybe someone is working on the inventory, someone is working on the movement, someone's working on the combat. And then at some point you have to bring that all together, and they're like, but in the beginning they're all like making their own prototypes and you're trying to test everything individually. Is that roughly how it works?
Yes, I mean, I think we are moving past that, but the moment I started in AAA, it was the moment that everybody discovered the Scrum, and it was like the new big thing. So, and mind that depending on the team, you will have many opinions, and that's the problem. You have a creative director that talks to a lead designer or a design director. The design director have lead designer or lead designers. And then those lead designers will have game designers, and all these people need to have, I mean, even if they share the vision, they normally have a strong opinions about how to make it good, and they need to have some sort of room for iterating those things. So you normally is like, I don't know, combat. Okay, you guys are the ones that have more experience with combat. You get combat programmers, you get some animators, you go into a room, you guys have, I don't know, 2 months, which is like 3 sprints and bug fixing. And then from there, let's check with the creative director again. And then when they get all this, they play, they give feedback, and they decide what's the next step until you get something that plays nice and all. Again, this is the ideal, but the human factor kills it. Sometimes you get someone who is very charismatic, and even if a project is bad, it will tell you, but it will be fantastic, and everybody somehow feels positive about it and convince people that that was good enough, even if it is not. And sometimes you get the opposite, someone who is not very charismatic, very pragmatic, and shows something and says, well, this is as much as we got, and it feels like a bit of a downer, even if it works well, and people feel like they want to improve it. So human factor is big, and it's chaotic, and it is what it is.
It's interesting how bigger teams sometimes manage to make very poor design decisions and nobody seems to notice, right? Have you heard of the term toxic positivity?
I have. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Do you think it's a thing in bigger teams that can happen, or?
The thing is that you label it like it's a thing, but it's more about, as I said, the charisma of people. Let me tell you an example that happened to me. I am this kind of boring, pragmatic guy. I come from tech, so it's true or false for me. So I remember, for example, discussing a milestone with a big publisher, and I told them, okay, so this is the milestone. We have done out of 100 things. I kind of remember the details more or less. We did 97. Those 3, we are missing them. We are moving them to the next milestone. And then they making a big thing of it. Oh, this is terrible. You haven't done those 3 things. Those were the most important ones. You Ricard dropping the ball. And I was like, well, then don't approve the milestone. What do you want me to do? Well, but I want to. And they were looking for this kind of push and back, right? This kind of convince me that I don't want to convince you. If you don't want to approve the milestone, that's nothing I can do. I mean, I told you the things. We did 97 items, and that's a lot. If you don't value that, that's really up to you. I respect your decision. And then I that was on a call. We are not talking to them directly. And then there was a guy behind me, lead for another department, who is very different from me. And he's like, can I join? He's like, yeah, if you want, go ahead. And he started talking. And after 2 minutes, they were like, yes, this is exactly what we wanted to hear. You guys passing the milestone. You guys are fantastic. We trust you. Those 3 things were not done. He was just very magnetic. He was like, we hear you. what we are doing is that we really want to do those things right. So we thought that we need to take the right time because we know that those are important for you. It's like, what is going on? I was like clueless. It's like, but we are not doing them anyway. And after that, the guys were like so happy. It's like, yes, by the way, Rick, can we have that guy in the room every time we do a milestone report? I was thinking that he will be here for all. Yes, that's fine. So is it about the items? Maybe I'm not charismatic and I'm, so that's what I mean. We pass milestones because someone is sweet to someone. That's why big teams can generate this kind of big mistakes.
So there can be false negatives and there can also be false positives depending on the charisma of a person. Basically, for a milestone, it could be that they don't want to improve a milestone even though you deserve it, and it could also be the other way around, that you don't deserve the milestone being approved, but somebody's charismatic, so it's approved anyway.
So your negotiation skills is bigger part that what my programmer mind thinks of. And I learned it the hard way. So, I mean, we all know you do an interview and to a company, and maybe you ace the test or something, but they don't feel it. Or quite vice versa. You are really bad with the test, but the others feel it. What is the feel it? What is the connection? It's extremely circumstantial. It's luck. It is, again, human behavior. Humans talking to humans and trying to guess and use their intuition to see how things will be. But bigger teams make mistakes, or even more mistakes, I would say, than smaller teams, because there is an expectation with hierarchy and experience that those people become very good at what they are doing. So if you were part of a very successful game and you were the lead designer, so we trust you. If the lead designer of this awesome game says this goes, we trust you because you were successful once.
So this is almost what you said in the beginning, is that this creates a chance for you to become a bit less grounded, because maybe if you had like a big hit, maybe people trust you more than they should. And then you get caught up more in your bubble and in your mindset because of that.
Because people generate kind of an image of who are you based on your past success. But that's fine. I mean, this is the shortcuts that the brain takes. I mean,
sure.
You made an image of me like you have a career and successful. I was just been coding games for that, whatever people ask me. I have done nothing special. But this kind of image that we do for other people tricks us into, well, if this guy says this and he sounds very experienced, must be true. So let's go for it. And again, makes sense, but in corporations and when there is big money, that's sometimes the only way for making choices. This guy did a very good game last year, so if he says this game is good, this game is good. They don't have any other thing to base their decision making into. But then you look into the reality, and maybe that guy was part of a 200-man or team, 200 devs that they were doing a game. He was lead designer, but maybe the creative director was overruling him and making a lot of correcting his bad choices all the time. And there were many designers that did fantastic despite of him. But you have that guy bringing that title. It's like, I've done this game. I was there. And suddenly it's like, you are the guy. But in a AAA, there is not the guy. I mean, there are so many people. It's very, very difficult to say you are the creator, you are Sid Meier, you are this kind of name that defines quality. Business people love those, but this is basically smoke and mirrors.
I see.
Never.
So it sounds a little bit like, even as a lead director or something, you don't see yourself as that important, or what's like?
Oh no. No.
What's like the value you provide to the team as a lead director?
It's value, but in the end, it's a bit difficult to explain.
I mean, experience is worth something, right? You can't be like, experience isn't worth anything. Surely you would rather have somebody who's been in the industry for 20 years than a newcomer as like your director for your game, right?
Not entirely true.
There's a pragmatic answer coming.
No, I would love to give you easy answers, but there are none. I'm too old for easy. No, that is not true. So another example, probably that I tell my students very often. I was pitching a project when I was a Crytek to a big studio, and they were liking the project, and then I gave them the time to ship. I can recall, let's say 2 years. And I remember there was one guy in the publishing side that's like, no, you could do it in half. I was like, what? Where this comes from? No, we cannot do it in half. Yes, you can. And he was very confrontational in that meeting. But he's, and I don't want to cliche people, but it always happened with me with Americans. Americans in a meeting room can be very strong. This is my business side. But then the moment, and Europeans is like, man, fuck you. I mean, come on, don't be that like that. But the moment they leave the room, it's like, hey, let's grab a beer. Let's grab a beer. You're super nice to work with. It's like, you were just yelling to me. Okay. They are
business. Okay.
They are very good at compartmentalizing those kind of things. At least, again, those are the ones that I work with, which is, of course, statistically no value. But that has been my experience. So I grabbed a beer with that guy and I told him, why do you think we can do it in half time? It doesn't make sense to me. And he said, well, because I have done it in the past and it only took me 1 year. Like, what have you done? Well, I did it the game in the past, similar to yours, and it took 1 year. Okay, so I'm doing a fighting game. So your game was a fighting game. It's like, no, it was a racing game. Okay. And you did it with a team of 100, like the ones I'm doing? Oh, no, we were 60. Okay. Did you got the team in the start or you need to hire? No, I already got it from another project from racing games. This team was been doing racing games for 6 years or 7 years. Okay. So if I understand correctly, I need to hire a bigger team. I don't know those guys. I'm starting from scratch and I'm going to do a fighting game. And my assume is 2 years. And because 10 years ago, for another console, very old console, you did a racing game with a team that has been doing 5 racing games, and you did in 1 year, you think I can do it in 1 year. I was looking, it's like, yeah, now that you put it like that, it doesn't make sense. It's like, yeah, but man, can you please think about it before you start yelling at me in a meeting room? Yeah, well, I'll talk to my boss tomorrow. I think that, maybe that it was a bit too much. But the thing is, was his experience valuable? There is something. But as with luck, I tend to see that people overvalue experience a lot. Because, and the reason is because the people that have experience, we like to show this kind of experience. This is like, I've been 20 years doing video games. This is how you open everything in every website.
Oh, yeah, sure.
In everything. Everybody talks about the years doing video games.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen many professionals and the way they behave or how fast they learn or how they are different over time varies extremely. Very, very different. It's like saying 2 people went to the same, school and they know exactly the same. That's not true. There are people that iterate very fast, but they never go to the end of a big game. There are people that only experience end of games because they are in a big companies like Ubisoft, and 1 year they finish one game and then they jump to another game that is finishing, and they do not experience pre-production. There are other people that have been promoting very fast and they only know leadership and they have never been in the trenches. There are people that have been ignoring the company and they have been in the trenches forever and never give enough value. There are people that are only supporting one system for 10 years. I've been doing my physics thing in 10 years. After 10 years, the only thing that you know is this. So your 10 years are extremely different from someone who has done 10 years. So we put that number because, again, simplifies the communication. Okay, 20 years. Okay, so you are silver level, gold level.
Yeah, exactly.
But, and also, there is the factor of negative experience. Senior people come with this worked for me in the past. Exactly as that guy that mentioned, well, it worked for me in the racing game in the Super old console. And he has this stand of, I want to value my experience. This is what I'm bringing to the table. So that's the first choice for him. But is it? Things are extremely different from project to project, from team to team, from technology, from game. So different than when we say we are the video game industry. Yes, but you look at other industries and everything is more structured. When you go to make a movie, there is a structure in that process. There is a script. People buy a script. Then you hire a director. Then you put the money. Then you do this. Then you do that. It can go well or bad, but you do 10 movies, and normally the process is very similar. When you do video games, everybody in most of the teams, they improvise and they decide how they are going to do it. There is no book of, let's do a video game. Page 1, you have to do this. And well, there are actually many, but people ignore them. So no, experience could be bad. And most of the time, experience is way, way lower and could be negative, could be a negative bit. Most of the people at Epictellers are very young. And honestly, I'm super happy with the productivity and how bright they are, and they see nothing is impossible, and they just want to, eat the world. And that is a value that sometimes seniors are not getting because, I tried something 10 years ago, it didn't work. That doesn't mean anything nowadays. But they are wired to not try it again, if you know what I mean.
I see. I recently talked to a old game dev friend of mine we worked with in the past. He sort of gone a different way, made a bunch of cool games. And one of the things he told me was that the more he works on games, he feels like he's getting better at it, but he feels like his theories for what makes a successful game become less and less well-defined the more he works on games. He was like, he could have given better advice on how to make a successful game 5 years ago than what he can do now. So I'm wondering a bit, do you think that maybe if you don't call it experience, but if we maybe call it something like wisdom, can you grow some wisdom? Maybe the real wisdom is in knowing that you don't know. Do you think that's a thing?
It's a good term. I like it. I think some sort of wisdom, you carry few things with you, that's for sure. Being selective about which things you want to use or which you don't want to use is the skill. For example, when I go during the weekends, when I go and build a system, sometimes some of the coders in the team is like, you did an audio system in one day. You are amazing. You are the final coder. You are great. It's like, have you look at my audio system? It's 80 lines of code. Just like, oh yeah, I'm looking at it. Well, it's very simple. Yes, that's the magic of it. It's very simple. It doesn't do anything it doesn't have to do. I could overcomplicate it. I've done very big systems, and normally 60% of it, they are never used. So you become very practical. You become very aware of the time that you have, your energies, your moods, and you try to control yourself about, okay, I will have my Saturday. I will have no one at home because my wife is getting the kids somewhere. I will be resting, and then I will be focused on this. And I keep thinking, okay, what are my goals for this system? Those 3 things. I will just get those 3 things in the absolute easier way possible. And a way that it's easy to read, easy to fix. And I don't care if I destroy it and start again and not get attached to it. And that simplicity is probably one of the things that I would carry with this wisdom. Just do the less that you can. I mean, sometimes with tests, the other day I was talking with a tech director at IO, a very good friend, and told me that they do tests for coders when they try to join the company. And they give them so much code trying to prove their skill. And he keeps like, I don't know, at my age, I just value the guys that just solve it directly with as simple a solution as possible. They don't mess around. They don't need to build all those kind of abstract classes in order to build a system that it's like, those are 3 functions and it works. So if it works, it works. And I love those guys, and we miss those. I would say that's probably one of the kind of wisdom that you carry with you, how to be practical. And this kind of, wow, you program very fast, is I just decide what not to do. And that's it.
Right. Yeah, okay, I see. Some would call that experience, some would call it wisdom. So maybe the thing is also that not all experience is created equal, right? Some of it transfers better to new projects than other experience. Like I think people sometimes overvalue how or overestimate how transferable skills are. I find that they're not as transferable as people think they are.
Yeah, totally. They are not much transferable. What you can transfer is the way your attitude towards it, how practical you are, and the kind of understanding you, and how practical you become in order to, let's say, to analyze the problem and probably preview or think ahead about problems that you could have with this. This very morning, actually, a few hours ago, we were talking about with Oscar, one of our great programmers at Epictellers, and he was saying, well, I think I finished the save system. So I told him, we need to do versioning because at some point, the save system, it doesn't have a version. If it's old and we change it, we don't want to be trying to load all save systems. And these are the kind of things, it's like, yes, it makes sense. I don't need to explain anything. He will be fantastic at doing it. But it is this kind of, I've been there, done that. Let's do this now. It's very simple. It will save so much trouble. Other things are very simple. Like, for example, when we upload files, we have, there is a match of where files can be and which extensions and in which folder they can be. And it feels like very simple. You could tell, hey, your audio needs to be in the audio folder. Just do it. But my experience tells me that audios will end up everywhere because people are fast, because we are closing this milestone. You just put it here, no worries, nobody removes them. And in the end, you have a chaos of a file system. So now the pipeline does not allow any audio files outside the audio folder, as an example.
I see. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you have any strong opinions about how you should approach the code architecture of a new project? Are you the way I would estimate your answer is probably a very pragmatic. It depends on the project, right? Do you have any strong opinions on like anything like you should be super minimal, only do what's absolutely necessary, or what are those? I wonder what are the strongest opinions you have about that?
So I've been the overengineering coder because I could, and I want to test myself. I like to build systems that are very well designed, very well structured, and they're with minimal dependencies and things like this. At some point, even after I jumped totally into the object-oriented kind of trend back in my time, and I felt like doing, for example, a C function in the middle of code was like a sin. You need to make a class or a structure that has a class inside that defines, and then you go with STL and you do this and you do that. And it and this kind of, let's say, it made this kind of, you are proud of your area of the project, because in bigger teams you don't have control of pretty much anything. I mean, there are people deciding the art, you actually do not talk much with them, and there are designers and everybody's like, yeah, right, but you need to make sure that this network code syncs correctly. Fine. So you hyper focus there. And then it's like, okay, this is my area. I'm going to be happy in this kind of playground. And now I'm going to build this playground. So I am the network code or the combat code or the audio code, that it doesn't matter. But I'm going to make this playground. Then you make your classes, you make your systems, you make your things. Then you are happy with it because you are kind of building your house in the middle of a big city, which is the game. And you want to be comfortable in your house. But also you want to prove yourself that you are smart, that you can build very complex and very smart houses. So you start building not just a house, but you build, an office building with lifts and parking garage and tons of areas, and you feel very good when people is like, why I look at your code, there is so much stuff. It's like, I know, I'm very good. Well, after a few years, that's not a compliment. That's actually a bad thing. people should go to your house and understand immediately what's going on.
Yeah, right.
So this kind of thing of, for example, no need to comment your code. Code should be readable. I normally found an average there. Comment the intention of the code. So normally it's how you open a file, the first line. I'm doing this file because I intend to do, solve this, audio listener in 3D to do this. My intention is that in this file, I cover all the API for this. You don't need to document anything. This is what I try to do. And let's see if the file accomplishes that. And then the rest should be very readable. Always prefer readable code, of course, very simple code, and remove dependencies as much as you can. Even if that means sometimes having to add some code in order to make sure that things are separated. Because then you can analyze it's very simple, but you can analyze the stability of each area by itself.
So would you, for example, include the dependency in like multiple systems rather than all have them depend on that separate system? I don't know, if I have like a bunch of utility functions, I have the choice of having like a utility module and all of my other modules reference the utility module, or I could just hard code all of the utility functions into each individual module. And then they have duplicates of them, but each system is more independent. What would be your way to go there? Because you kind of have the tension between duplicating and decoupling systems.
I mean, duplicating is normally the last resort, but it is acceptable sometimes. You don't need to be dogmatic about copy code. I mean, it's fine to copy code if code you feel is not going to change much, which it normally does, but simple code that you want to just keep in an area and make sure that this code is by itself, like you are building a DLL or something like this, is really like self-contained, then it's fine to copy code, as long as it's not a big piece or you think that the changes are coming to this code. But it should be your last resort, as long as you try. So for example, in our code, every time I need a function, a stupid function, I don't know, there is a file that we call MISC, miscellanea, that we put functions and we don't know where to put. And then they have this other thing of do not architecture the code too much because you are not that smart and the code is very complex. So sometimes people ask me, hey, Rick, this function here feels odd. I don't know. It's like, just put it there. And if the problem grows over time, and at some point you see that you have a group of functions that are out of the same theme and they need to be their own stuff, then later we will move them out. But do the first work now and keep going until the system works. And then we can analyze after the work is done how the game is going, how the code is going, and decide where to move stuff. But you can decide later. Do not pre-architect everything, because I've never seen someone who draws the architecture and then codes the architecture like that and it works. It doesn't.
You figure out the architecture as you go, right? Yeah.
Brains are not wired to. I mean, sometimes I see genius people, but then the genius people do not architect; they just code directly. But normally, this architecture then code is. You can draw something in order to communicate with other coders a bit of an intention, but after that, you start coding, and then you start, iterating on the smaller things, and then is when you can do your stuff. And if you see again something growing, something that makes sense, no worries, change it, and it's fine. You don't need to stick with your previous thing of architecture you got in your mind. I don't know if I am answering the question, but it's very broad. I mean, coding, it's a big topic. Like I don't know, coding patterns, for example, is something that I discovered halfway through. We never got a book for coding patterns. Well, when I was coding, there was no books.
Yeah, coding pattern is something I wanted to ask you about, because I've seen a lot of, like, you see people talk about a lot of different coding patterns, and always they're like, oh, this is the one, like SOAP is the shit now, or ECS is the shit now. And then it's like, you end up very confused there. which one actually is the shit? I don't know. There are too many.
Yeah, I mean that's for people that love talk about that as this is their goal of their job and not, and they are detached from the goal itself. I mean, sorry, I'm not explaining myself. If you are in a big company, and again, you don't know what's going on, but you are doing this 0.01% of the next Assassin's Creed, and you need to speed up, I don't know, the way inventory shows. Then you open your, okay, give me the solution for this. And then you look for something. You could speed up maybe with doing some nasty tricks, like, whatever, adding ugly code that will speed up code. Or you could do something nice. And you are very well paid to do very big task. And when your lead programmer asks you, you said, I just need 2 weeks and it's going to be amazing. And then you build, as I said, your comfort zone, and then you open the book. I've never done this kind of thing. That sounds a nice solution. And then you get excited and you jump and do it. I get it. I've been there. I've been opening a book. It's like, wow, this solves all my problems. And then you do it and it solves 60% of your problems, but creates other problems. And maybe it's not the perfect tool. So you end up having this nuance about selecting the right tool for the right situation. When someone becomes very dogmatic, it's like, if you don't do ECS in your engine, you are doing something wrong. Oh, that turns me off quickly. Why? Depending on the game, depending on the situation. I mean, yes, it is a very nice solution for some stuff, but all those nice solutions, after a few years, you start seeing that they are not that good, and maybe there are other solutions. So it's the new thing. It's very cool, and you want to architecture around it, and you want to challenge yourself. But you will hear me very all the time saying it depends. It depends. There are very, very. I mean, they are very good, and I will recommend everybody to code them once or twice. You get this very good book of game programming patterns, which I think is fantastic. Very well explained, and try them and decide which kind of tool makes sense. And sometimes you pick one and change it. Don't worry. It's not about the pattern. It's about the outcome that you expected.
So every pattern comes with advantages and disadvantages, is what you're saying, and which is, I think, also what makes sense, right? There are pros and cons to everything. Would you say that it makes more sense to pick one programming pattern for your entire project, or do you think about programming patterns on like a system to system basis?
Oh, no. It's always system to system. I don't think of any pattern that is kind of a general solution. So, no. I mean, for input, for example, if I'm recalling, the command pattern is very interesting, especially if you need to buffer in different inputs. For the whole structure of the tree for the scene, ECS is a nice choice. I mean, you could deal with something else, but it's very well packed for memory, serialization, continuity. I don't recall the name. In order, everything is packed in memory, so you go through it very fast, very optimized. For that kind of problem, you apply that solution. But the moment you need to do an audio system, or you need to integrate WISE or something, I mean, it really depends. I would say no. It's better to have knowledge of all of them and decide which one to pick, or don't pick any. I mean, you don't have to. They are just solutions that have proven interesting and good in the past for certain areas. But each of them, in the book, will tell you, if you have problem A, B, or C, this could work. Try that.
I see. So you would pick more on a system to system basis, and you don't think it's a problem if I use ECS for one scene and then SOAP for a different thing or whatever. Got it.
For the scene manager, ECS, if you stick with it, go for it.
Yeah.
But do not be dogmatic that everything needs to be like that. Okay. Especially nowadays, it's very rare that you are CPU bound. I mean, you need to be quite a bad coder or you are doing a mistake if you're CPU bound nowadays.
Okay.
Again, and depending, but with GPUs taking so much work out of your hands, be practical. I don't mean that you do not optimize things or you do things, and don't be reckless about overusing the CPU because you don't care. just be nice to the CPU. And as long as you are nice, CPU will be easy time. GPU will take over most of the serialized work. So you should be fine.
Sure. Yeah, at university, I remember one of the first game projects. Some of my friends, they had a prototype with weather effects, and like all of the snow particles were like rigid bodies in Unity. That was not very optimized. They were not very nice.
That's what I said. That's a coding mistake. That's that's a mistake. But it's not that it's slow because your computer or something.
Yeah,
it's slow because you did a dummy mistake. But that's fine. I mean, you learn from this, and we all have done this, and probably will do it in the future. That's fine. But
sure.
And again, it's more of an easy, clear mistake than back in my days. You really need to take care of every cycle of the CPU and be very careful.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you don't, I mean, it's not that you can ignore it, but just, again, be nice to it, and that's it.
With Starfinder, you're fully working in Godot, right?
Correct.
I think that's one of the biggest Godot teams I've heard of. Do you know any of similar size, or do you think you're one of the biggest?
I think that there might be others, but maybe they are hiding in the shadows doing a fantastic game that will come over in the future. But no, I mean, I was talking to Rene about PBKK, fantastic game they're doing. I think they are 8, 10, something like that. Yeah, but they have contractors and people helping them, so that number does not explain the whole story. But no, ours is pretty big, I would say, if not maybe one of the 5 biggest using the engine right now.
Do you think that Godot maybe incentivizes certain design patterns more than others? Like, for example, I think Godot has like this event system, right, where you can connect things with signals, I think they're called.
Yeah, Godot is built in a way. I mean, one of the reasons I pick it because I probably will make, if I would do an engine right now, I will do things very similar to them. I think it makes a lot of sense, all the decisions that they made. And it's a small. It's small. Yeah. I like it that it's small and it's nimble. It's not blown out, and it is how things should be. You can do so much with 1 or 2 megabytes of disk in a video game. I mean, it kills me when I see wasted hard drive, CPU cycles, with Unreal and Unity, just loading it. You see all those things. It's like, come on, man. The things I can do in a millisecond, and this, I've been 10 minutes waiting for this. This is outrageous. Godot incentivizes, I mean, the structure for the scene tree is very interesting. So the concept of everything is a node works. I think it's just a way of doing it. I mean, I wouldn't say it's good or bad. It's just a way they do that, and which is fine. I think the moment you get used to it, well, you see the benefits of it. Their scene tree is very well optimized, so you can handle hundreds of thousands of nodes, no problem. But the good thing about it is makes it very transparent to see what's going on. It could be complex, but it's transparent. But I wouldn't say it's the biggest perk, and that has Godot over other engines. I mean, when you in Unity or Unreal, you pick one game object and suddenly you see all the components are down there. You could be scrolling and there are many things.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff, which is fine. But all those stuff, it will be nodes in the scene tree in Godot. It's really the same. You can get the same complexity, but visually it helps a bit. I wouldn't say it's a big thing. Signals are a very smart choice for Godot. It is a way of decoupling things that works very well. The only thing that worries me is that I don't like that very long call stacks. And signals by default, they immediately call functions. And so normally I am the guy putting always, no, this is a deferred signal. So you call it on idle time. I don't have long call stack. But again, I think that's me. It's not a big deal, but I prefer things to be, in video games, you end up isolating things in the frame. The frame is your kind of playground there to work. And the moment something happens, if possible, it's like, okay, something happened. I'll take note. And I'll do that later. But do try to not do something, and then that thing does something, and then does something, and then suddenly you see a spike in the middle of, you get a frame that does a lot of stuff. You want to do stuff, you see that, the player hits, I don't know, a detector, a trigger or something. Okay, I'll take note. I'm not react right now, and I'll react maybe next frame. I'll react by in the idle moment of the frame, or when I finish this. And this thing balances things out and actually makes the code easier to understand. You know that the moment you are reacting to something, you are just doing that. You are not calling from 10 things that could generate, I don't know, very long call stack.
And probably makes it a bit more efficient for the CPU as well, because you can like batch process all of the things, right? If you have like very deep stacks, then the CPU has to go through a lot of different types of code. Whereas if you just take note of collision events or something, then you can just batch process them in one go if you have multiple of them.
Normally I prefer this because it's also easier to debug. For example, the bark system. So things could be happening in the game, and then the characters in our game could be saying, I don't know, there is a window, you are doing this, there is a bad guy coming, and they notice things. So the way I do it is like every time there is anybody calls like, hey, this guy should be saying a bark, I just take note of it. Mm-hmm. And then at some point when I get to the process, it's like, okay, what is my queue of barks to say? I mean, it's this. Those are a lot. I don't think I will process all of them. So let me process 3, and I'll take 2 or 3, and then the next frame I will do more. It's a queue that I will be exhausting, because frames, in the end, I mean, when you have a game that goes 30, 60 frames, this goes extremely fast. You don't have to solve everything in the same frame. So when you have that mindset of a slicing, frame slicing, or I think it's called, that putting things later, your systems breathe very easily, because you see, okay, I'm going to solve 3 of those, and then you solve 1, then you look at it, and you know that when it's happening, you know the code, when is going to be the code that they execute in the process, not exactly when somebody says that this guy should be saying something else. Gameplay-wise, it's not important that it happens on the microsecond or millisecond. Code gets simplified that way, even if you have to do a queue, which is basically an array you pop and push, but just nothing.
How do you personally go about planning the architecture for a new game? Is it like multiple programmers sitting on a table and like you come up with this big master plan, or do you break it down into smaller systems immediately? Or like, let's just say I want to make a new game. What would be your recommendation for how to approach code architecture?
First, it needs to come from the game. Code architecture is like saying, hey, how do you approach to build an engine for a car? It's like, it is a racing car, or which car it is? First is which car it is. And that is very important, to have it as much as you can define. So, for example, in Epictellers, we know we want to do CRPG. So what you do is literally make, in Spanish we said Carta a los Reyes Magos, which is the letter to Santa. Is like, what are the toys that I want? Okay. So you go open Baldur's Gate 3. Well, I need a dialogue system. I need people moving around. I need combat in turns. I need to upgrade levels. And you start going with a high very level. Okay. Done. At some point you have the toys that you want. You have like, I don't know, 30, 40, very high level. Because in the end, we are copying kind of a structure of a game. The genre already expects those things. Again, this goes game by game. If you are going to do a very innovative game, this could go through a different cycle of discovering. But most likely nowadays, you are taking 60, 70% of another 3 games. So you just first make the list in a paper. And once you have that, then you start breaking them down into pieces. Okay, so I need to do combat. What is combat? Well, I need for combat is turn-based combat. So turn-based combat, it means that how do I isolate those pieces in a way that they do need to talk to each other as less as possible?
Sorry to interrupt, can you quickly explain why decoupling things is important? I think I I think I have some answers for this, but I'd be curious in how you answer this. Why is decoupling things important in the first place?
I don't know. Feels too obvious to me. I never got to.
Is it easier to debug, or is it does it make systems more reusable, or like what?
Okay, so first, again, as with anything, you don't need to go crazy about the coupling. Sometimes couple systems are fine, but the coupling systems allows you to separate things in smaller elements and breaking big problems into small problems. Again, the first thing is you need to acknowledge that compared to the complexity of the code that you are doing, your brain is stupid. Cannot handle it. Your brain is very limited compared to all the complexity you want to handle. So what you are doing is that you transform the problem in something that your brain can handle. So you keep breaking it down into small pieces until one piece fits your brain. And the moment you have that, then I can code for it.
Okay, that also makes sense. I see.
Combat, as I said, so the example will be, for example, one of the things that we did is like combat, it's a lot of pieces. So in a turn-based, can I have a system that just handles turns? You give them IDs of entities or something, and then it will tell you, okay, turn 0, your turn. And then it waits for the entity to say, I'm finished. It's like, okay, now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. We found the round. We finished the round. We start again. It's your turn again. And then maybe you can tell the turn system, oh, by the way, this entity is no longer in the combat. Fine. Okay. It will handle it. It's like, now it's not your turn. It's the other turn. Or you can say, by the way, this guy moved and it only handles the problem. And you take away everything and say, combat is too big for your brain. And suddenly, turn-based, well, I think I can handle it. It's just basically IDs and entity IDs that are in one sequence. How hard this can be? Well, normally that happens is that is actually not a simple thing. And you start coding it and you, as long as you keep practical, maybe you can solve that in, 500 lines of code or something. Well, that's because we use GDScript and it's very easy, very quick in Godot, but in C++ it will be 3-4 times that. But regardless of that, you solve that problem because it fits your brain. And that's it. I solve it. I have this turn manager, and the turn manager doesn't care. You just need to know that do I start, what are my entities, and it can decide, by the way, I don't have entities, so the combat is finished. It will tell you because I don't have more entities that are active, and will signal those things in and out. And you have this box that solves this problem. And the good thing is, like, out of combat, you remove 20% of the problem. It's like, okay, this is solved, and I do test, and I make sure this works, and the code is easy, because if there is a problem there, it's just 500 lines of code. It's easy to find out what's the problem. But it doesn't try to do everything. It just solves one problem. Move, and then it's okay. Now, skills. I need to start finding skills and killing people. What is death? Okay, death. That is a complex concept in a game like that. You can be unconscious, you could be participating, you can be inactive, you can be... So how we are going to handle that? And then you break it down in another thing, and you try to, like, okay, that it has to be a criteria to decide what is that and what is not, and this will be handled by this. This is skills, this is that, this is movement, and you make sure that all those pieces gradually solve the combat problem, which is a big system, is a like epic level kind of system.
Right. So do you sort of think about it in terms of layers? So you have like basically systems building on top of each other? Or is it more like a puzzle with a bunch of interlocked systems?
No, those are layers, of course.
Layers.
So what you do is, going back to the turn system. So does the turn system know what's an entity? An entity is a class somewhere else. Doesn't need to. I mean, what is interesting for the turn to know about the entity? You don't have to. So, okay, so they are not going to be entities. They are just going to be IDs. So it's like, hey, there is a new thing that goes into the turn system, and the turn system, okay, you are going to be number 3. And I don't care what you are. It's just I only handle order. So I don't need to know that entities exist. I don't need to know if people are alive or dead. I will call it deactivated or out of combat. You decide what means death or not death. And you keep removing all those concepts until turn system is something you, in theory, and again, this is not a very good goal, but in theory, you could give it to someone else and they will have a turn manager that they could apply for other stuff. It's important to not go crazy with this because modularity, it has its place, and some people go crazy about everything needs to be modular and things like this. Don't go crazy with that, but it's a good goal to try to achieve. So our turn manager, as this example, doesn't know what is an entity, doesn't know anything about anything else. It just handles order, and that's about it. I mean, that's already few things to solve. And in my experience, sometimes programmers, young programmers, and experienced programmers, it's like, that's too easy. I can do turn and then this and then that. It's like, okay, if it's too easy, just do it quicker. That's fine. You feel it's easy. But trust me, it's going to be more complex than this. Yeah, but come on, Rick. I think that I can do the whole combat together. No. Just solve the turn thing. And when you have it finished, let's talk about how it is built. But just do that. And 90% of the time they come back is like, actually, yeah, there was a lot of nuance into, for example, there are the concept of you can delay your action. It means delaying your action. It means that you can decide to not take your part, wait, and then you could send a signal, I want to act now. Well, this is part of the turn system. Well, that's few functions to handle that and new member variables, and it keeps growing. And also the fact that it's a small thing. The moment we grow in the future, we can just go one of those small pieces of code. It's like you grow, but it grows. They were small in the first place, so they never become, normally they do not become overloaded. So yeah, that's what we call the base layer. That's the base layer of systems that do not talk to each other and do not know anything.
But then the next layer you build on top of that, they obviously need to know the layer below the side. That means they must have dependencies. They don't work without the dependencies.
Yeah. So for example, there is the game states. The game states is where I am in the game right now. There is a state that combat starts. And the state, as another example, just handles movements between states. It decides when the state is finished and what to execute before going to another state. It decides arguments when the state starts. But it's actually very empty. It's just normally 50 lines of code, 80 lines of code each state. So, for example, the combat state starts and it does, okay, it seems that everything is right. Combat should start. I have people and they are alive and they hate each other. They are different factions. Feels like combat is right. That's my job. My job is to know that that state is fine. Okay, now I call into memory or activate or whatever the combat manager. And I know about the combat manager, and the combat manager appears there. Hello, I'm here to handle combat. Yes, it is the right context. I checked, combat should start, and the combat manager is like, fine, what do I have to do? Okay, first I need the turn manager. Turn manager, I'm starting. Those are the 10 entities that are going to fight each other. Those are their factions. Okay, you have it? Fine. Okay, now that I have that, I am going to play cinematic saying combat stars. Okay, I'm going to grab this cinematic with this system and this character will say his voice. What do I have to know? Well, it seems that combat, hey, turn manager, are we okay? What is the first guy to go? It's ID number 3, whatever it was. You say ID3 is entity. Oh, now it's the time for the character to play. And then he basically orchestrates 3 or 4 systems together. There is a moment you do sense. This combat manage, but as you said, that's the second layer.
So you do have orchestrator scripts, because the modularity extremists, I'm not sure how they would even approach it. Would they try to make a generalist orchestrator script so that they plug other scripts into? Or that's not a good approach anyway, right?
No. So there was a very smart coder, Muratori, which is absolute genius. And he described coding as, I think was syntactical, simplification or syntactical compression, something like that. What you are doing is layer by layer, you make things simpler. So imagine, for example, that we don't have a turn manager and we have the combat manager. And the combat manager starts like, okay, I'm starting. I need to know who goes first. Okay, I'm going to start coding this. It's like, okay, this is the entity, you roll the initiative, you go there, you go that. And it grows and it's very big. So what turn manager is doing is syntactically compressing this complexity into 5 function calls.
Right.
So suddenly the combat manager is like, turn manager, just start and do your thing. Those are the 10 guys. Which one is the first? I did everything. It's number 3. This is code that is compressed. Syntactically, you compressed tons of complexity and the turn manager just handles that. So turn manager is syntactically compressing this. So when you look at the combat manager, you don't need to have a long combat manager. It's just telling the turn manager to do something. Then it goes to the entity and tells them, hey, you need to wait, or the UI, you need to wait for the character to decide what to do, or it's an enemy. So just AI system, which is already compressing all this complexity. You do you, tell me when you're finished. And you are selling, but the code, even if you are calling different systems, is simple. It's syntactically compressed, is readable. You see what's going on at every step. And with functions of 20, 30 lines of code, you see one turn happening because you are calling all those systems that handle the problem for you.
Right. So if you write a system and you notice it becomes too big and too unmanageable, then perhaps that means that you need to compress some of the sub-problems into their own system. So you keep doing that. The idea is you keep doing that until the problem almost becomes trivial, right? Or
correct, until you see, as I said, at some point the combat manager with all of this would not fit my brain. Yeah. And it's like, well, I don't know what's going on. There are always bugs here. It's so long. And honestly, after 2 weeks, I don't understand anything that I did here. So it's clear that you did a code that the moment you were coding it, you felt confident that you understand it, but when you're back, it's very difficult to handle and other people cannot understand. So at this point, what you need is, it is a symptom that you need to do, syntactically compress something. And it happens very often, and you need to be flexible on that mindset when you're coding. It's like, okay, this is growing too big. I feel this is a problem in itself that doesn't need to be connected with other stuff. Can I compress it to a manager and put it into layer 0, which it just solves this problem. And sometimes we have managers that are literally 60 lines of code that solves a very simple thing, but it makes the code, the gameplay code, very easy to read. It's like I'm calling this manager, for example, mouse. We have a mouse manager that decides which kind of mouse icon you're showing. It's really like a call function. Just put that mouse into it. But if you start thinking about it, it's really a stack. So when you go into, you go into an area of the screen that the mouse goes in, it changes to, looking at something. But then there is an inside area where your mouse goes in, and then there is this other one. When you leave, it's basically a stack base. You remove the top one, and then you see the previous one, and then you see the previous one. Well, okay, there is a stack to it. Fine. How do I define the icons? The icons are, maybe it's an enum, maybe it's a list of resources, but it needs to be very easy for me in the gameplay code. Say, put the icon of whatever you use when you are observing an element, or you want to attack, or you want to pickpocket. And that already justifies a mouse manager. And the mouse manager actually not simple. It has many things. And this keeps happening. For example, I got surprised how difficult the targeting manager was. When you are selecting different skills in our game, it's like, okay, you need to have a cone. Well, I thought that you pick an enemy and that's it. It's like how difficult that is. So I put it into the combat manager. And then I was like, okay, just picking an enemy, that's fine. And then the designer is like, yeah, but what about if you need to pick 2 enemies? It's like, I guess that I can just increase it. You pick one or two. Yeah, but you can only pick enemies that have this condition. If they have this other condition, they don't. Like, okay, so I need to filter by tags. By the way, this other skill has a cone. You need to first set the cone, and out of the cone, you need to select 3 entities. And that has this condition. Like, okay, let me stop you there. Targeting system. Let's get all this into something that solves this. Mm-hmm. And I go to the targeting system, and targeting system actually has grown in one of the most complex systems that we have, because there are many ways to it. But I didn't expect this to be that complex, and well, I learned the lesson. But again, you just need to be flexible about it.
Would you say that, like, what differentiates a good programmer from a bad programmer in terms of how they architect their games is the skill in knowing how to compartmentalize your code? Or what's the difference if you look at like a first game jam student project versus like a professionally done AAA, or what's the learning curve? What are the skills that you can work on to get better at that?
I will start with the same. So it depends. So if you are a systems programmer, your goals are very different from a gameplay programmer, things like this. So systems programmer, for example, have more a focus on understanding the underlying hardware and how to optimize correctly for it. So in this case, for example, in our system will be the Godot programmers that are improving the engine. What we do in Epictellers is basically gameplay programming. We don't do engine programming because Godot solves that for us. So gameplay programmers have a different goal. Gameplay programmers, my experience tells me that they need to have this 30% of game designers, that they play the game. They want the game to be fun. The game want to be useful, and they are not solving a coding challenge. They are solving a player-facing feature, and they need to be able to put themselves into the shoes of the player, understand what the designer wants to achieve, challenge that if it's needed. They need to be a bit of game designers, and once they get it, they need to embrace it, because no game designer is going to do it right in the first place. They said, okay, I think that for targeting, I think for the combat, for this, for that, this makes sense. And a good designer will tell you, this is my intention. It won't tell you details, because the programmer needs to feel those. And then you go and do it, and then you start, okay, I want the best experience for the player. The code is a tool. Code needs to be, of course, minimally well structured, easy to read, easy for other people to jump in. And as long as it's like that, you are doing a good job. And that's about it. Minimal, practical, everything that I said before. I can go with examples of bad programmers that I found. So I found people that they want to show that they are very good programmers. So they overcomplicate the system, saying, yeah, but look at what I can do. I don't care. This is not necessary. I am sure that you are super smart, that you could do amazing things, but the solution for this is way simpler. Then there are the ego ones where, well, the designer told you this other thing, and this sounds not very compatible with what they were intending to. Yeah, but this is better. The designer doesn't know. Okay, that's someone who cannot collaborate correctly with the rest of the team. There are designers that say, there are programmers, for example, that they are too cautious, like, oh, this will take me a month. It's like, what? No, come on. This is really like 2 days, maximum 3 if you want to check it. There are coders that upload all the code and forget about it, and suddenly things are crashing, and then the first reaction is to blame others. It's like, well, you should be doing something wrong because my code works well, because I tested once. So in general, the gameplay coder is really a good team player, and code needs to be good and needs to be easy to work with for the rest, but team player, QA, design, other programmers, bring them together, find the easy solution for the problem, and move forward for the next feature. Simple as that.
Got it. Why is it that some people, or what would you recommend to people who code themselves into a corner a bit? Like, this happens. I think this can happen if you're like not as experienced, if you're making a big project for the first time and at some point you open the project and you can't work on it anymore because the complexity got too out of control. This is something like you don't hear this super often for like people who have been making games for a while because they're more careful with it. But this is something you hear sometimes from people who make their first games where they're like, yeah, I had to start from scratch 3 times because I coded myself into a corner 2 times.
I don't think there is a good solution. That's the programmer journey. I've done that so many times, just for the fun of it. There was a very good presentation on Godot Fest by René from Vivin Bips, where it was explained in the beginning exactly what all the coders we have been through. We want to do games. Maybe we don't have artists around us, but we want to do something cool. We have a general idea. And then you get into how cool it is to code, which is different from how cool it is to make a game. It's very easy to differentiate the focus because you get attached to very good ideas that you have while you are coding. It's like, I took this shortcut and suddenly collision is super fine and very easy to do. And you are proud of yourself. But you are doing things just to challenge you and to proving yourself, which is great. It's like, I can do it. For example, I remember I spent a week coding from scratch in C and dungeon crawler that with collisions and everything, very old classic, very like sharp corners and everything. And I was having my kids just drawing me bad guys and I was putting them like a billboard and they were having much fun.
Nice.
And it was cool. And then move on because, I mean, it's nothing. It's just an exercise. You need to feel it like programming is like a sport. Every morning, sport people just go and pick the bicycle, go running and things like this. And it's fine. I mean, you do it, corner yourself and learn from it. But the most important thing is learn from it. Most of my intuition and my practicality coming from cornering myself into those problems and already saying, wait, if I would not have done it, probably I would still be overconfident that we can complicate it, but it will fine because we are very smart. I learned the limits of my brain by by doing things that are way more complex than I can handle. Right. So I think that you should probably try to not feel very bad about it, but move on. Move on and do it again. Doing exactly the same thing again, you will see that you will have many different ideas and you will do it differently. But that's fine. I mean, just own it.
Okay, so you don't see a problem with starting from scratch. You see it like as a natural part of the learning journey.
I mean, in a big company where you need results and people are watching over your shoulder if you get things done in time, if you feel you are approaching this, involve your lead programmer and involve other people, and they will give you perspective on what you're doing on other ways of doing it.
Sure.
At some point, for example, most of the coders and Epictellers, they smell that they might be something too complex and they just call me, like, how am I? Is this a good direction? How do you feel about it? Then we have a conversation. And normally, sometimes they're doing fine. Sometimes I give them some perspective. Sometimes I do not add anything. But at least you become good at smelling that you are probably digging yourself in a hole. But in your spare time, I would say do it as many times as possible. As long as you learn from it, every time you will become a better programmer.
Is there anything like programmers who want to learn, like in my specific example, I'm trying to understand what I need to do to become like a better programmer and better at architecting my games. Is there a specific question that people want to become better at programming don't think about that that they should think about? Is there anything I didn't ask that maybe I should have asked?
Okay. Jonas, what you have done so far? I mean, how long you've been coding and what are the things that you have done?
Sure. I've made like 3 indie games in Unity that have been commercially quite reasonably well received, I would say. One of them was actually in Game Maker. So I made Islanders in Unity in like a team of 3, so fairly small indie team. Then I solo developed a game in Game Maker, which was like a platformer. And now I recently released a game called Thronefall, which we made in Unity over the course of, let's say, 2-3 years. And that was like a fairly big project, like multiple levels, top-down strategy, tower defense kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And now we're thinking about maybe going into multiplayer and like stuff that where I think it could really be beneficial to structure the projects properly. I think I've developed a bit of intuition about how to structure code, and I've had my learnings from it, but I feel like there's so much to learn still.
Yeah. But you are concerned about how to become a better programmer, but it seems that you are doing fine. So what is the problem? I mean, what is this kind of image that you have of then I will become good and I will cross that frontier and I will be joining the Valhalla of programmers? What is that?
Yeah, sure. I see it as a gradual learning journey, but I guess part of that gradual learning journey is also to ask people who've been in it for longer to see if there's anything to learn from them, I guess. So I don't see it as like, oh, there's one secret hack. It's probably like a continual progress, right? That's probably the case.
So your goal is to become better programmer or commercial success with your games? I guess both, or?
I think the goals are interlinked. I want to become better at everything if possible.
They don't have to. I mean, being commercial success and being a good programmer feels like they are aligned, but they are circumstantially aligned. They are not. There are people that are very good at picking the right game to do, that is attractive for the audience at that moment, and things like this. And these people will be way a step ahead of you, no matter how good programmer you are. So a good programmer will make is that the game will have less bugs, will be easier to maintain. You will have to do less crunch, and you will feel happier while you are doing it. But it's a tool. The game, the decision of which game to do, the decision of with whom doing it. You are talking in plural, so I understand that you are now part of a team.
Right? Small team, yeah. 2 people at the moment, yeah.
Okay, so deciding with whom doing this game and the game itself, it's 80% of the equation. With you becoming a better programmer, again, after what the background that you have, you will get 2% more or 3% more into this kind of quest into making a better game. But you also, it seems that you have genuine interest into the engineering of coding and enjoy having solving problems in a smart way. That is fine in itself, but you need to make sure that you see the difference between those two. I rarely have seen code from video games that are well structured. It's always a mess, but it works. We don't care. We do video games. We don't do, space level NASA kind of code that needs to be stable or people will die. We do very simple, not critical systems. I actually recall a guy that we hired in Peter Studios that came from making an operating system for train system that need to go in. And the guy couldn't survive a week. He looked at the code, he's like, how you are doing this? You nuts? It's like, yeah, we don't care. I mean, the game is fun. So that's the goal. And he couldn't. I don't understand. This is so complex. There are pointers that could be null and you don't check anything. You're nuts. Well, it sort of works. So we don't care. So that's for video games, you need to understand that code mastery is not that attached to it. For code mastery, normally the best thing you can do is probably join a company with other coders that will drop you. You will see other code. It will be, for example, beneficial for code mastery to move to another engine, try to do things in Unreal, try to build even your own engine. All those things brings you closer or faster to code mastery. Remember what I said, that all the experience are not of the same value. 5 years of experience doing Unity are not as good as 5 years that I did on Unity, Unreal, my own engine, and Godot or something. Because you are changing the context so much, you force your brain to learn very new things. But that's the road for code mastery. making a successful game is not that road.
It's a different road. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Then it's like use whatever the tools you are used to. If Unity is your thing, do Unity. If the kind of game that you want to do, go for it. And then your commercial success will be based on your smart choices around what makes it fun and the iterations that you allow yourself to do, and how do you listen to your players and things like this. This is way more important than which kind of code architecture that you have, because as long as it works, that is not super relevant for video games.
So is the difference in how efficiently you get there. So the main deciding factor is like game design, idea, market fit, a little bit of luck, and so on. And then if you have a better code architecture, the perk you get from it is that you get there more efficiently, and that maybe a project is more scalable a little bit or something like that. Or how do you look at it?
But scalable systems are also a bit of a myth, like reusable code. And I don't know, I'm too old. I've never reused much code. I mean, the best thing you can do is just start from scratch. Most of the time, yes, you could reuse code, but also it's very boring. You want to code your own stuff. No, it's a bit of a myth from my point of view.
So you don't believe in building a code base and then when you make your next game, you reuse half of your previous code base or something like that? Doesn't speak to you?
I do believe, and life have teach me otherwise. I still believe it. For example, one of the reasons we are doing CRPGs and Epictellers, and we are announcing that the company is about that, is because I strongly believe that if you keep doing CRPGs, technology can transfer decently well because you focus on content and not technology. Because CRPGs have not progressed on technology that much. Pillars of Eternity, Kingmaker, Divinity, they are all having the same approximate systems. But you build very nice narrative. You become better at writing music for it. You have levels that are more interesting. You have companions that have better art. That is fine. That is content. But the systems can be reused. But I have already specifically targeted to build a studio around one kind of genre, which is that's why I said I believe that you can reuse some. Having said that, in general, people overuse the term. This will be something that I will use in the next 5-10 years, because video games and life are very chaotic. They are not predictable. Your brain tricks you in telling you that in 10 years you will be doing your third game and this system you are coding right now will be fine. Reality, it's a mess. The systems and thinking changes very often. You will have a different perspective about code in 8 years, and you will look at your code that you're doing today. It's like, what the fuck I was thinking. You will have different games. And there is one thing that people normally don't think about is you will become bored of doing the same thing or using the same code. And this is a huge factor, because the fact that you are asking me several times, I want to become better, and that's fantastic. That's an energy you have to learn. Now imagine that you built your next game in multiplayer or something and you master it. And now you have to do 3 versions of it, 3 sequels that are exactly the same. You don't touch any code and you just design. You will become bored very fast, because
that's true.
Your brain wants challenge. You want to, what about all those books that tell me that there are fantastic ways of solving things? I want to solve complex problems.
I want to write a new system.
Exactly. So this is, for example, something I repeat a lot to the team and the Epictellers, is that, this is very complex now, this is very hard, but I think that when we do the next game, we'll be more experienced, so it will be easier. But also will be boring. Now you have this kind of energy that every time you learn something, your brain is very happy and makes you happy. It's a survival thing. Brains want to be learning all the time.
Yeah.
If you at some point stop, your brain tells you, come on, what is my drug? I want to learn more stuff. I am not high on learning. And then you will make the game more complex just because. So let me bet right now that the fact that you want to do multiplayer in this new game is also because feels cool to do something you haven't done maybe before, or you already maybe doing something directly tried to do a game that with technology you haven't tried because you want to do multiplayer and check how it is.
It's a way to up the difficulty for sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you will be keep upping this difficulty. So this system that you think that in 5 years you will use, you will want to rewrite because you will have better ideas. So no, writing is a myth. Modularity in a way that you can reuse code, it's a bit of a myth because of the human factor.
With the exception of maybe specifically building a studio around a very specific genre and then strictly sticking to that genre, which makes reusing maybe more viable.
A percentage of more viable, but I assume that we will be doing more stuff. So for example, our game is not multiplayer. And as you said, in our next game, CRPGs are very cool in co-op. So I would love to jump and do multiplayer. We needed to cut it to keep the scope doable. But what happens, we have all the systems figured out and we have multiplayer figured out. What we do, I don't know, multi-platform. Multi-platform is cool. How it will be to move your game to a Switch too. That's a very interesting problem to have. I would like to see a dev kit. I would like to see how are the memory. How do I solve that problem? That's cool. What happens when you put the game in all your consoles and you solve multiplayer and you just do another game with different characters and different music and stuff? Boring. And that's a human factor, and then it will be a problem in the future, I suspect, if we manage to survive the current state of the industry. But we will have to deal in the future. But right now, I keep telling, we are in a very sweet moment. You will remember this moment because you are super energized, because everything you do every day is new. And that is a fantastic thing to feel. Even if you feel that you are not experienced enough and you could be doing mistakes, that's the situation you want to be always. You want to do the fourth game and feeling that you are doing something new.
Yeah.
If you look at the statistics, all the game studios do one game, and then the second game takes more time than the first one, even if it's a sequel. How it come?
Interesting.
Always. And it's something that project managers do not understand. It's like, how come? We built everything. So we just, how come?
It's because it would be a shame if the second game was smaller than the first one. You wanna.
But even with that, you have more people in the second project, and it becomes more difficult to ship it, and you get more delays, and it is a tough thing. So again, human factor. Code could be reused, but it won't.
Interesting.
One of the things that probably teaching at the university, I think, is something we are missing in the game mastery education, but specifically talking about it, not about shipping cool games. Again, I told you that those things are different.
Yeah, different. Yeah.
I think everybody should be writing their own engine.
You think this? Well, it's like as an exercise or to actually use it.
No, exercise. Usually it doesn't make much sense nowadays. But as an exercise, when I was at the university and we were building a curriculum for this video game kind of official course, very well suited, 40 years, I managed to do a bit of a trick because they said, okay, Rick, there's going to be a subject that is called game engines. And they assumed that I was going to teach a real Unity and, I don't know, CryEngine or things like this. I said, oh, fine, I can take over, and I handled, yes, you do everything. So then the first day is like, okay, guys, we are going to build an engine. This is the subject for game engines. And we are going to learn to do all the parts of a game engine. We are going to do everything in C++ from scratch. We will use SDL to just open the window, and the rest is ours. We have an OpenGL context. Let's go for it. We are going to build all the systems ourselves. And they were like, whoa, oops. It was a hard subject, but it's like learning C++ and then, or C and C++, and then learning our language. You learn Latin. You learn the source of everything. You learn, you understand what is a synth tree. You understand what is an audio, or how do you handle audio. You understand physics engine. How you understand how to load geometry, how you draw it. And you have visited all the systems in the most, not in the most, because you could do it even lower level, but you have tested all the systems yourself in a pretty decent low level. And then when you first open Unity, it's like, okay, how this handles audio, what is the physics system? Oh, okay, is this attached to the frame, to the visual frame, or do you guys detach frame, or but you have a lot of concepts clear because it has gone through your fingers while you were coding. And I see that it scares me a bit that we are evolving to a moment where the only people that knows how to do game engines are the people working at Unity and Unreal. And there should be, if that will be the case, Godot would not exist. And probably other engines. Maybe there are other engines in the future that should happen, but we should not be stuck in with especially commercial companies that they do something and it's kind of black sorcery again, how to do game engines, but everybody knows how to use them, but not how to do them. Which again, it's fine to make that difference. But if you are going through the path of code mastery, building your own engine makes a lot of sense. It's a lot of time, and you will corner yourself into an impossible code complexity, and that is fine. But if with some guidance and some way of some structure, we were building a full engine, not a full engine, but let's say with the core part in 4 months. Well, actually it was 4 months. And then I asked them to expand on one system to each of them. Like, for example, you are going to do the physics, you are going to do hold reloading and scripting, for example, in C++, or you are going to have a VM for Lua, or you are going to have a UI system that is really well done in an editor. But everybody did all the synth trees, save and load, undo, load geometry, draw it, create the concept of a level, create the concept of I don't know, audio, all those things. You could already put geometry there, have a character, move around. It's like, okay, I have everything there in an editor, and you build your own editor. Because nowadays there are enough libraries in C++ to simplify your things, like your life, like in GUI, for example, which is excellent. A simp to load geometry. Yeah? So you can patch the most low-level things, and then in 3 months you can build your own engine. And that's something I think that I'm scared that in the future it will be only few people that still keeps this kind of low-level knowledge. So I would say for coding, I think it's a healthy thing for everybody to go through.
Because you understand a bit more what's going on under the hood. You understand the systems more.
Yeah, I mean, it's compiling shaders. What it means compiling shaders? Why there is a need to compile shaders? What is the concept of that? If you've seen through the code and you're doing yourself and you have organized that, you understand what Unreal, or you have the better intuition what Unreal is doing, because of course there is a lot of complexity in there. And you can learn any engine quicker because you have this kind of understand of the moving pieces around. So which I think it should be more the goal of the university to understand the base. And then, you could do a course on Unreal or Unity, but you understand the pieces of how the machine works.
Why do you think, why does it feel so much like Unity and Unreal have so much bloat compared to Godot? Do they just have more features, or is it something else?
I mean, this is commercial. This is specifically commercial reasons and historical reasons. Historical in a way that you accumulate stuff and you keep working on the same thing. And commercially wise, you are pushed to have new things all the time. So you want Epic wants like the next Unreal is going to be amazing because it has this and this and that. And Unreal and Unity are not paid by the coders, are paid by the business owners of the video game studios. And they will attach a price with value, and they will see a video where someone in half an hour has built a racing game, and it will tell you, well, we have the game already half done because of Unreal. I'm going to pay this incredibly expensive license, so you coder have an easier time. And for them makes sense. But normally they have a lot of legacy, a lot of systems and things that everybody's asking for in different ways. Sometimes also they have their own needs, like Fortnite, this new thing needs something. So Unreal Engine will focus on what Fortnite needs for a while and then wrap it into, we have new things that we need for Fortnite, but you know what I mean. The same for Unity. Unity has becoming bloat because they want to do everything, and especially for mobile games and indie. And it's, from my point of view, it's unacceptable bloated. I mean, what means that I have to download and downloader.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that? That's why Godot feels good. It just have what it needs and it doesn't, and not more.
So do you think Godot in the very long run will have the same problem where, because people still want probably new features with every release, right? So is it the doom of every game engine to eventually become more and more bloated? Or is there a way around that?
The thing is that they are a foundation, so they are not going to be better paid because they have a better version or something. So their motivations are different. So I remember there was one version I upgraded from Godot, and it was smaller. And this is goosebumps for a coder. It tells me that, wait, there are 3 megabytes of the executable that are gone. Oh yes, because we thought that this is not very much used, so we decide to remove it. If you want to keep using, use that old thing. And somebody's like, this is fantastic. This is exactly what I need. I mean, Unreal should be smaller every time if they need to be effective. But it keeps growing and growing and exploding because it's this kind of, fanfare of all the things that you want to do. Godot doesn't try to do everything, but always tries to keep small. And this is the more developer mindset more than the executive mindset.
I see. So the different financial incentives create a different outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are very strong. I mean, in the end, Epic needs to keep selling games, and Unity, it's what they do. That's why they try to milk as much as money from their teams as possible. Yeah.
Do you think Godot's user base will grow? Are you bullish on Godot in general?
Bullish? What do you mean bullish?
Do you think more developers will use Godot in 5 years than now? Or?
Well, the statistics says yes. It keeps growing every year.
Okay.
I mean, don't take me wrong. I'm not here to say Godot is the best thing, but there are things that still piss me off a lot of the engine. But normally when people ask me the difference between all those engines, there is a measure that I call it is fighting the engine. So every day when I work with Unreal, I know the 2 hours of my life are going to be fighting Unreal. It's like, okay, Unreal, how do you want me to do this? Which kind of forum from 3 years ago I need to find of somebody that hacked this in order to make this happen? What is the button that I need to press out of 3 million buttons in order for this to happen? And that will be 2 hours of my life spent into finding Unreal, how do you want me to do this? In Unity, when I used Unity long ago, it used to be an hour because Unity 4, for example, was very small, was very simple, it was bare bones, and I guess, okay, Unity, how do I do that? Oh, this way. And actually, if not, I could do it myself. So you felt this kind of freedom that Unreal, if you don't do things the way Unreal wants, you are in a mess because it's extremely complex. With Unity, it used to be like that. Well, with Godot, it's 20 minutes. Sometimes it's 5, and sometimes you don't find it. So yes, it is a problem, but the measure of the problem, it's important. And the thing is that it does not compile. It opens in 5 seconds. Everything is very quick. This makes you feel that by the end of the day, you are way more productive than normally how you feel with other environments. Then when you are productive, you are excited about what you're doing because impact is the base of happiness. And when you are happy, you become more creative about how you solve problems. And this is a very good loop into be. Just about that. So I suspect that, yes, it will become more and more used. It's used in a lot of places without telling them because it's open source. And I know it's built on cars and things like this. They just grab the code and do whatever they want. But I mean, it's very well done and it's evolving the right way. Normally, every time there is a new version, it's like, yes, 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 and yes. And that's very good. Thanks. Oh, all those things. Well, I don't care, but those all things. Normally with Unreal, what's upgrading is like, you are doing what? Why? Who needs that? I guess Fortnite. What about, oh, you're making this bigger. Oh my God, I'm going to have trouble. And it's a big deal. So yeah, that's why it feels different. I think it has a bright future. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% see the appeal. Yeah. The longer you use Unity, the more annoyed you get by the bloat and by all of the fighting the engine, and it definitely increases my urge to either go to something more lightweight or to write my own engine, though that's probably not the smartest decision for making commercial games.
No, for making commercial, no, but for coding mastery, yes. Yeah. But no, don't do your engine to build your own game. Maybe in the future you want. I mean, there are people that get to that nirvana of programming that they can build very specific technology for a very specific game.
Yeah.
That is fine, but normally you go ahead and do that when you have the luxury of not being looking at your bank account every month and making sure that you are doing well.
Yeah.
If you have this time, why not? I mean, whatever makes you happy, man.
Yeah.
But if you need to do something commercial, sensible, and in time, probably the best approach is to use a solution there and use the solution that you are more used to. One of the reasons Unity keep hitting is because people have been using Unity before and they feel comfortable in that environment. And they don't want to be looking into other environments because time is money. My assessment right now of Godot is that for 2D games and small 3D games, there is no reason to use Unity anymore. And they are not mobile. As long as
you're making a decently big 3D game in Godot, so you don't seem to be afraid of that. Cool.
Thanks for having me. I watched some of your other videos and I think they are very instructional, and I think it's a good effort. I mean, I hope that more people get into the mastery of coding. It's very fun. It's very cool to code and get your own solution. It gets goosebumps. It's like, yes, I solved that very quickly. And that's very elegant. That's very cool. Why not? Everybody wants to get excited about the stuff they are doing.
I mean, you're right on the fact that it could almost be a distraction from the things that actually make games successful, but we cannot deny that it's very fun to think about these things and to maybe even over-engineer them a bit. It's kind of a fun thing to do.
As long as you see the difference, is like, I'm going to give myself a treat and over-engineer this. Why not? Let's do that. But you are conscious of what you are doing. You are not doing it and then pretend that this is what the game needed. Don't do that. As long as you don't do that, that's totally fine. I mean, it's your time and your computer. Do whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, I think you had very, very fair and pragmatic answers to everything. I really enjoyed your takes. So thanks a lot for your valuable input. It was quite enjoyable.
Thanks for having me.